Hello there. So, meet my voice. Actually, it's not really meeting my voice. It's listening to and hearing it. But this is it. No voice changer here. Yes, it's this bad. Okay, leave me alone. I don't care about what you're saying. Anyway, let me explain something. So basically, if you didn't see a few videos, the last one, basically that's the most relevant one. What happened is that I decided to change my channel because mapping wasn't working for me. It's more detailed in that video, so you should watch it. Basically, I only upload like mapping videos, but now I decided to shift my focus. That's right, and today I'm doing a history video. It's gonna be kind of like a mapping video, except more like a history video. So I'm gonna talk about the Winter War, and yeah, there's also gonna be a map animation on how the front changed. Of course, I exactly don't know, and this is according to a few sources, including Wikipedia. I don't know why I said Wikipedia, and a few other sources as well. So anyway, let us begin. So firstly, let me tell you like the basics of the Winter War. So the Winter War was a war between Finland and the Soviet Union. It started on the 30th of November in the year 1939, just after the Germans had invaded Poland. The Germans and the Soviets, that is. It ended on March 13th of 1940, so it didn't last for a year. It lasted around a couple months, so there's that. Now let me get into why the war started first, because I mean I don't know what else I can say, but still. It began after the Finns refused the Soviet ultimatum to cede territory near the Soviet city of Leningrad. These demands were made because the Soviet city of Leningrad was close to the border. It was about 32 kilometers away from the border. And Joseph Stalin, the leader of Soviet Russia or the USSR, fun fact, he was Georgian, uh, wanted to move the border farther away from the city to protect the city. Finland, of course, refused this ultimatum, and the war soon started. But first of all, what the Soviets actually wanted was to conquer all of Finland and set up a puppet state or make it a part of the nation, part of the USSR. This was in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. That was a pact signed between the Germans and the Soviets, which split Eastern Europe in two spheres of influences: a German sphere, which included at first Lithuania, Western Poland, and some other countries which are not really important, and the other side, which was the Soviets, which included Latvia, Estonia, Bessarabia. That's Moldova. The area around Moldova, it was taken from Romania, and all of Finland, which should have gone into the Soviet uh, Union. It was basically that was how it was written in the treaty. So, anyway, Soviet propaganda portrayed Finland as a fascist clique, a fascist state. Here is some Soviet propaganda which is showing a dog, which is meant to represent the Finnish White Guard, Finland's army, which was being guided by the Nazis. Hello, quick in between. I accidentally make a mistake there, and the mistake was that I accidentally said that Finland's White Guard, the Finnish army, was led by the Nazis. No, that's completely incorrect. What I meant to say is that in the propaganda, I didn't point that out, so some people wouldn't have gotten that. And yeah, I don't want to spread fake news, fake facts, anything. So yeah, if you spot any other mistakes, feel free to share them. Don't be like shy or anything. I would appreciate if you tell me if I made something's mistake as a mistake, and also I would also appreciate if you guys told me, like, off, asked me what war I would do, like, make suggestions, basically. So yeah, anyway, go back to the video, I guess. The Soviets first wanted to negotiate, but this was probably just This was probably an attempt to make the Soviets look a little bit better in the eyes of the other powers and other nations. They contacted the Finns, telling them that the Soviets didn't really trust Germany, and war was a big possibility between the two powers. The Finns assured the Soviets that Finland was neutral and would stay like that if any kind of war broke out. Uh, of course, Finland had nothing it, it, it wanted to take. There was nothing Finland wanted from the Soviet Union. But the Soviets wanted them to lease or cede some Gulf of Finland islands and some territory in Karjala. On October 5th, the Soviets demanded that Finland were to cede land up to Viipuri, which is a Finnish city. It's currently it's in Russia now, but it was Finnish for around that time. Uh, they also demanded the destruction of all existing fortifications on the Finnish border, more specifically the Mannheim Line. I totally nailed that pronunciation, and more land, specifically Gulf of Finland Islands, like I said, and the Ribati Peninsula up north in the province of Petsamo. There were even more demands to lease the Hanko Peninsula to the Soviets for 30 years. The Hanko Peninsula was located near the capital, the Finnish capital of Helsinki. So, yeah, the, the Soviets wanted the Finns to lease this peninsula to them for 30 years. Then, then soon after these demands, the war of course begins. On the 26th of November 1939, an incident that's in brackets or whatever, because this was proven to be staged by the Soviets, and anyone could see that this was staged. Occurred near the Soviet village of Mainila. It was on the Soviet-Finnish border. A Soviet border guard post was shelled by the Soviets in order to have a valid justification to go to war with Finland. 4 guards died and 9 more were injured. Soviet diplomat Molotov, the guy who signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, demanded that the Finns apologize and move troops back from the border by 25 kilometers. Finland said no to the demands, as they didn't nothing. They didn't even they didn't basically they didn't shell it, and it was not it was not the Finnish fault. It was not. The Finns didn't do that basically. Um, the Finns actually wanted to have a joint examination of this incident with the Soviets. The USSR claimed that this response was hostile and renounced the non-aggression pact they had signed with the Finns back in 1932, and I believe in 1934 as well. The Soviets expected to demolish Finland in a few weeks, and they also expected to win in a few weeks, but no, they really didn't. This had many reasons, one of which was the Soviet purge. Much of the Soviet army leaders were executed, and the leaders of the armies were more incompetent. The new recruited new generals were incompetent, and the Soviets wanted to choose them over generals who were actually more competent. So there's that. On the 13th of November 1939, Soviet forces invaded Finland with 21 divisions. This was around 450 men. The Soviets also bombed Helsinki, the capital of Finland, like I said. Anyway, what's not really interesting, but I still need to say something. The Soviets are really bad because they didn't even declare war. Good attempt at trying not to look like the Nazis, guys. As they bombed Helsinki, and they also said something really hilarious. Of course, the Western powers said, hey, don't do that," and they were shocked by the Soviet attack on Finland. And Soviets said they weren't bombing Finland. No, they didn't bomb it. No, they were just dropping humanitarian aid packages because the Finnish populace was starving. That's a better joke than something else. I can't think of that anyway. So now, off with that joke. The Soviets didn't even declare war on Finland; they just attacked it. The League of Nations expelled the USSR on 14th December, but this did nothing. This did nothing. No, it did nothing. The Finnish defenses, the Mannerheim line, I nailed that. I know. Shut up. Um, was located 30 to 75 kilometers away from the Soviet-Finnish border. This line was in the Karelian, I don't know how you pronounce it, isthmus. Look, pronunciations, not my thing, okay? Leave me alone. There were 250,000 Soviet men and 130,000 Finnish men in this area, just on the Karelian isthmus. The Finnish delayed the Soviets from reaching the line, probably to give time to the defending forces to properly dig in and get ready. The Finns were able to learn the weaknesses of Soviet tanks, and they began jamming the wheels of the tanks with the wheels with crowbars and logs and some rocks probably as well. Why? To immobilize tanks. This immobilized Soviet tanks, and the tanks were deemed useless as they were pretty much broken. But the Finns also used the Molotov cocktail, which I won't really talk about this much. It was basically, it's kind of like a beer in a bottle, I guess, sort of thing. Look it up if you really want to know what it was about. So anyway, the Finns destroyed 80 Soviet tanks just in the border region. By December 6th, the Finns were at the line. The Soviets attacked the line near Lake Ladoga, this giant lake right here. But the attack failed. The Finns didn't expect the Soviets to attack up north, but the Soviets attacked up north. They did that, yeah. They took the port of Petsamo, and attacks began in Sala as well. The Finns used their skill of skiing and the snow, as well as the terrain and the record low temperature of -43 Celsius in the Karelian Isthmus, and the long hours of darkness to their advantage. So basically the Finns used snow because they had white uniforms, and Soviets took too long to give their men proper equipment, proper clothes. Winter clothes weren't scarce. No, they weren't really scarce, but they didn't have white clothes, and they just dressed in normal camouflage, and the Finns could see them very well, but the Soviets, yeah, not so well anyway. The terrain also helped the Finns, as they could ski down mountains, quickly ambush Soviets, and yeah. Anyway, there was also a record low temperature of -43 Celsius in the Karelian Isthmus. This helped the Finns, or the Soviets, as they were more prepared, and the long hours of darkness due to the war occurring pretty much just up north, just in the northern hemisphere, around there anyway. And yes, the Finns perfectly camouflaged with the snow, while the Soviets didn't. The Soviets weren't able to get past the Mannerheim line, I don't know how you say that, and they suffered from low morale and low supplies. North of Lake Ladoga, the Finns retreated up to Kola, a small stream. The Soviets broke through it several times, but the Finns always pushed them back. The quote, Kola hold, became popular in Finland. This was a popular quote in Finland, Kola holds. So, yeah. Here it was as the legendary sniper Simo Haya became popular. By the end of December, the Soviets retreated from northern Karelia. In Sala, the Soviets pushed the Finns up to the Kemijoki River. On January 13th, 1940, the Soviets ordered the divisions near Kemijoki River to retreat due to overextension. They retreated to the village of Markajärvi. The Soviets had air superiority over Finland, which helps them in their efforts, as Finland didn't have many planes. They did get donations, not donations, but leases from the British, the French, the Italians, the Americans, and the Swedish. The Swedish had also sent a few expeditionary forces, a few volunteer divisions to help their Nordic brother out. Anyway, um, the bombed railway lines, which were bombed by the Soviets, were repaired by the Finns really quickly, in a few hours, which didn't do much damage to the Finnish supply lines. In total, the Soviets lost about 400 aircraft in this war in total. Finland received shipments of Swedish, like I said, or that I already said that I'm running ahead of myself. The first naval battle of the war occurred on the 1st of December 1939. Though this wasn't really active, so Navy wasn't a big part in this war. So anyway, soon after the barrage of Karelia Isthmus, the Soviets made breakthroughs. During breakthroughs, the Finns retreated in Karelia Isthmus on the 11th of February, uh, and on the 12th of February, the peace negotiations began in Sweden. The war was already turning against Finland's favor, and the Soviets were already getting an advantage, and the Finns were majorly outnumbered. On February 19th, the King of Sweden, Gustav V, publicly said that Sweden declined Finnish requests for help. The Germans also feared that if the war lasted too long, as they might lose the iron Sweden was important to them, because the Brits and the French had the plan to occupy a part of northern Norway and go across Sweden to support Finland, which of course didn't work out. And yes, anyway, on February 29th, the Finns accepted the Soviet demands in Principe as the situation was dire. By the 5th of March, the Soviets had advanced 10 to 15 kilometers past the Mannerheim line. They also had entered the suburbs of Viipuri. The Soviets declined the Finnish offer for an armistice on March 16th to make the Finnish situation even worse. The Finnish peace delegation traveled from Stockholm, the Swedish capital, to Moscow, the capital of the USSR. The Soviet demands were increased as the Soviets were way more successful. They were pushing at a successful rate. By the 9th of March, the Finnish troops in Karelia were suffering with heavy casualties, and weapons and ammunition were already running out. The Finns accepted the Soviet terms, and the Moscow Peace Treaty was signed. On the 12th of March, a ceasefire was put in place. On the 13th, the Finns were to cede a large part of Karelia. This area, basically, the lands north of Lake Ladoga, an entirety of the Karelian Isthmus, also Sala, and 4 Gulf of Finland islands. The Hanko Peninsula was leased to the Soviets for 30 years. So basically, the Soviets gained what they wanted. However, this was a costly war for the Soviets. Let me tell you the casualties. The aftermath. The war lasted 105 days, and the casualties were as follows. The Finnish lost 25,904 men. They had around 43,557 men were wounded, and 800 to 110 were imprisoned. The Soviets lost a total of these numbers are still disputed. There's not an official number, but they lost way more than Finland, with 167,976 men dead. The war left both the Allies and Soviets embarrassed, as the Soviets almost lost to Finland. Finland, which wasn't a really strong power, and the Allies' inability to do anything became clear. This was a very priced victory for the Soviets. Could it even be a victory? I mean, the amount of gains the Soviets had, the original plan, and the amount of losses the Soviets had, Soviets got, was just not worth it for this war. No. And respect to Finland for surviving the Soviet invasion, as that was a serious war. I'd like to point out that Simo Haya, the legendary sniper, one of the best, if not the best one, the best sniper in the world, was able to get a total 505 kills, with way more being, he could have gained way more, and it's not really known. But anyway, yes, this war was something that shouldn't have happened, and the Soviets were evil, blah blah blah. And basically the Soviets were embarrassed, and yeah, Finland won't go on to joins the Nazis in Operation Barbarossa, and basically that would be the continuation war, which Finland would conquer most of all of their lands back. But of course, when the Soviets actually began getting stronger, getting armed, they would push the Finnish out and back into their own lands. But the Finnish would surrender before they could get pushed into their own lands, and the Finns also would lose Petsamo. So that was the war, basically. Yes, thank you for watching, and I'm joking, I'm not gonna ask to subscribe. If you want, you can subscribe. It's not really mandatory. I mean, I won't execute you for that. No one will. I mean, no one's gonna force you to subscribe to me. Because there's that. Thanks for watching, and yeah, stay cool.